Hello everybody. So I'm very happy to be sending you greetings today from one of my very favourite cities, not just here in Poland but in all of Europe. I'm in the city of Gdansk, which of course for more than 1,000 years this has been Poland's capital of trade on the Baltic Sea. A beautiful city, historic city, one-time city of the Teutonic Order, which flourished as a great Hanseatic trading power during the Middle Ages, when it would have been a very cosmopolitan city full of traders who were taking the grain and the timber which was shipped here from all parts of Poland along the Vistula River to be loaded onto ships of British and Flemish and Dutch and Belgian and Italian traders and shipped to all parts of Europe, as many of Poland's exported goods still are today. So a major powerful trading centre of the Middle Ages. This city, which in contemporary times has been known, of course, during the interwar years it was Danzig, with a predominantly German ethnic population. It was a free city which was administered by the League of Nations, and of course it was here in September of 1939, on the 1st of September 1939, that the first shots of the Second World War were fired. We'll be exploring that area of the Westerplatte a little later today. It was here during the 1980s that the Solidarność movement under Lech Wałęsa began, which would eventually lead to the fall of communism right across Eastern Europe. So it's a wonderful historic city, it's a bustling city, it's full of life. So I'm out early this morning. If you've been following on Instagram, you know that my family and I are up here now exploring for the week the three cities, the Trójmiasto, the Tri-Cities of Gdansk, Gdynia and the seaside resort of Sopot. So I'll be filming some footage of all of those for you over the coming days. And I've snuck out early this morning at 4:30 in the morning to get some nice film footage when the city's quiet, because I have to say that it was great. We were out last night eating pizza, the streets were full, the Long Market was full, and this morning I've even seen some of the revellers still getting home from the nightclubs. So it's great to see that life has returned to the city after COVID. And this stunning city, lots of architecture that's very similar, of course, to Belgium and to Holland, to the Netherlands. Stunning city, historic city, and one that I'm really glad to be able to show you around a little bit. It's one of my favourite places to introduce to our Insight Vacation travellers on our Highlights of Poland trip. It's of course going to be on our country roads of Poland in spring of 2022. And it really is one of the magnificent cities of Europe. Very, very popular city it's becoming. So I'm going to show you around a little bit. I'm standing here now by one of my favourite locations in all of Europe, the Motława River. By the riverbank we can see some of the historic buildings and the pirate ship behind me, which we'll be taking Max and Matilda out on a little later today to get us to Westerplatte, where the first shots of World War II were fired back on the 1st of September 1939. So let's go and have a walk around Gdansk. I'm very happy to be showing it to you early in the morning. I'll bring you some footage later on too when it's bustling with people, to show you that Gdansk and Poland are well and truly open again to the world. So let's go and have a look at Gdansk. Across the Motława River is one of the real landmarks of the city. It's called the Żuraw. It's the historic crane. So it was built in the 15th century, and this wooden structure stands between two brick towers. So it was both a crane used for lifting goods off the ships that came into the port, into the river, as well as fitting masts to the ships. As well as that, it served the purpose of one of the city's gates. So it was built during the 15th century, and it was operated by two enormous treadmills inside, which were operated by manpower. It's one of the most recognisable landmarks of the city, and along with the yellow building Opposite across the Motłava and the Solidarność ship, which was the first Polish-built ocean liner built here in the Gdansk shipyards in 1948. These all now make up a part of Gdansk's National Maritime Museum. So a fantastic museum which traces the history of Gdansk as a maritime power and the seafaring history of Poland and Poles. So I've just crossed over the Motłava River. I'm standing here next to the Czarna Perla, the Black Pearl, which will take Max and Matilda out to the Westerplatte later on this old pirate ship. But you can see beyond the pirate ship on the other side of the Motłava, we can see the Granary Island. Lots of modern restored buildings, lots of beautiful loft-style apartments, restaurants, cafes, bars. It's a real buzzing area of the city today. But until just a few years ago, this island, the buildings on it, the granaries, old granaries which were kept to store that grain being shipped up from southern Poland, it was rubble. It's still destroyed since the Second World War, so it took them a very long time to get around to properly and fully restoring this area. And actually it's not complete yet, because the other end of the island is still undergoing major restoration and reconstruction. But really wonderful, modern, very chic part of town today. I'm standing on the Mariatska Street, which is one of the most beautiful streets of the city. Beautiful old gabled houses in the Dutch style, and later today this street will come to life with the amber traders. So most of these old townhouses that we see along the street are actually housing amber shops, some of the little cafes and restaurants, but many of them amber shops. Gdansk, of course, up here on the Baltic, is one of Europe's capitals of amber. So this precious petrified tree sap, of course, petrified over many millions of years. There's an abundance of it in the Baltic Sea. It's mined very close to Gdansk, and during the Middle Ages this was one of the most important trading commodities. It was traded along the amber routes to all parts of Europe. So still today this is where many tourists and visitors come to buy amber from the amber dealers, and I'll come for a walk through here later when it is open for business, and we can see what a wonderful setting it is, and how busy it does get with people shopping for amber. But really a very nice atmospheric street, beautiful architecture and old buildings. The building behind me is called the Green Gate. So it marks one end of the Długi Targ, the Long Market, which is the main street of Gdansk, I guess you could call it. It's Gdansk's version of a main square. But more than just a gate, this building with very elaborate stonework and constructed in the 16th century in the Dutch Mannerist style was actually built to be a mansion house to house visiting dignitaries, royalty, kings of Poland, should they come here to Gdansk. It was hardly ever used for this purpose. It serves as a museum today. It offers great views of the Motłava River and the Długi Targ. And as I said, it closes off one end of the Długi Targ, the Long Market, which we'll take a walk down now, see some of the most famous landmarks of Gdansk. This thermometer, which stands, this old historic thermometer, which stands here on the Długi Targ, serves as a monument to Daniel Gabriel Fahrenheit, inventor of the Fahrenheit scale of temperature measurement, who was born here in Gdansk in 1686. This building is Arthur's Court. It was first built during the 14th century, and the current building was reconstructed during the late 15th century after the original was destroyed by fire. And this beautiful mansion house halfway down the Drugi Tag was a meeting place for the wealthy burghers, if you like, a Hanseatic League fraternity who were inspired by the chivalric deeds and the legends of King Arthur's court, quite common in Europe during the Middle Ages. So they would meet here in this beautiful mansion house, which today serves as a museum. And here in front of it, the Neptune statue and fountain. Neptune, of course, symbolises the importance of the relationship between Gdansk and the sea. So I've arrived to the other end of the long street, and just as we entered through the green gate from the riverside, here on the land side we have the Golden Gate. So it's named so because of the gold inscriptions, the gold decoration which adorns it, allegorical figures, statues on top. It was built during the early 17th century, 1600s, and it embodies the golden age of Gdansk. And here we see too some of the beautiful coloured mansion houses, burghers' houses, which belong to the wealthy Gdansk merchants of the 16th and 17th centuries. Just beyond the Golden Gate is the Prisoner's Tower. So when this was first built, it was a part of the city's original fortifications, but when the fortifications were rebuilt in the 16th, 17th centuries, this became a prison housing prisoners before their execution, a courthouse and a torture chamber. So it sits just outside the Golden Gate. Today it houses the Museum of Amber. Well, of course, a city during the Middle Ages couldn't have enough gates. This one's called the Highland Gate, and it's just beyond the Prisoner's Tower and the Golden Gate, so also just outside of the long street, the long market, the Drugi Tag, marked the beginning of the royal route, the royal processionary way. And today it serves as a tourist information centre, and perhaps you can see beyond the Highland Gate, the modern city begins. It's just beginning to come to life. It's 20 minutes past 6 in the morning, so the locals are just starting to go to work. The trams and the traffic have started. So this beautiful medieval core, of course, on the Motuava River is surrounded by a very modern and contemporary city. The city's former arsenal was built in the first decade of the 17th century, 1600 until 1609. And this is perhaps the very best example of Dutch Mannerist style in the entire city. Today it houses, well, some shops and cafes, a nice wine bar on the lower stories, and on the upper floors is home to the Academy of Fine Arts. Well, I'm standing here on Ulica Piwna, which is one of my favourite streets of Gdansk. In the afternoon and the evening, this is a centre of nightlife, lots of restaurants, lots of cafes, lots of great craft beer bars and little microbreweries. They have a great brewing tradition here in Gdansk, so if you enjoy beer, you'd love this place. Very traditional and typical style architecture, a nice atmosphere. And we can see just behind this row of houses the tower of St Mary's Church, which is one of a number of brick Gothic churches in the city. It was begun in 1343 and took 150 years to complete. Built as a Catholic church, of course, later served as a Protestant church when the population became predominantly ethnic German. Today again a Catholic church. Poles are Catholics, of course. And this church can lay claim to being the largest brick Gothic church in all of Europe. In the 14th and 15th centuries, Gdansk and this entire region of Pomerania, where Gdansk is, was controlled by the German Teutonic Knights. They'd been invited here by Polish dukes to help to Christianize the pagan Prussian tribes of the north. Outstayed their welcome by a couple of centuries and made this territory their own. And one of the great projects that they undertook here in Gdansk was the construction of this canal, the Raduna Canal, which powered a number of mills in this area. So one of them, the great mill, is just behind this old manor house, which we see behind me. So this area, quite a number of the buildings of this area actually survived the Second World War, so it's a very nice area. It's one that's quite often ignored by tourists. It's a little removed from the major landmarks along the Motwava River and along the Long Market, the Long Street. So I'll go for a walk through this area, show you some of the beautiful old brick Gothic buildings which survive from that time of the Teutonic Order. Well, Gdansk also is a major centre of culture, and one of the great cultural centres of the city is this one, the brick building behind the Gdansk sign, which is the Baltic Philharmonic Orchestra of Poland, the building which houses them and their performances. Dedicated, of course, to Frédéric Chopin, and really, again, one of the great highlights of this magnificent city. So I hope you've enjoyed our walk through the old historic quarter this morning. I need to go and catch up with Sabina and Max and Matilda now. It's just gone 7:30 and we've got a pirate ship to catch. See you there. So we're on the Czarna Pearl, the pirate ship, and we're going to cruise now out to the Westerplatte. It's going to take us out past the Gdansk shipyards and past some of the other sites through the Motwava River and out to the place where the Second World War began. Max and Matilda are here, Sabina's here too, and it should be a nice cruise. There's a few dark clouds about. It's a nice warm day, but there's a few storm clouds about. There's about a 40 to 50% chance of rain. We didn't bring the umbrellas, we're taking the gamble, so let's see how we go. So our cruise out on the galleon, on the Czarna Perla, has brought us out to the Westerplatte Peninsula. And this is the place where during the mid to late 1930s, this was the site of a Polish ammunition depot. Remember that Gdansk during that time was a free city, administered under the auspices of the League of Nations, with a predominantly German population, ethnic Germans. And during the late 1930s, there'd been a number of anti-Polish incidents. Nazi Party was active and very popular in German Danzig at that time. And this was considered a place that could be a flashpoint leading to war. So it was expected that something may happen here. And even in 1938, early 1939, first half of 1939, they cleared areas out here to make way for machine guns. The Polish garrison that was located here, protecting their munitions depot. They built a number of crude bunkers, like the one that you can see behind me, which still has a huge war damage. And a garrison of some 200 men were here by August of 1939. On August the 25th, the German battleship, the training ship Schleswig-Holstein, arrived here, a courtesy visit with more than 200 naval infantry soldiers concealed beneath her decks. And it was at 4:47 on the morning of September the 1st, 1939, that the order was given by the commander of the Schleswig-Holstein to open fire against the Polish garrison here on Westerplatte. So less than 200 men against the German warship commanded by Major Suharski, who defended this peninsula gallantly, first of all on the first day against the battleship, the second day against air raids, dropping 500 kilogram bombs, infantry invasion. Again, a week later, the Schleswig-Holstein opened fire again. For 7 days, this garrison held out against the German invasion, and it became an inspiration for all of Poland as she was invaded from all sides by Nazi German forces. Broadcast on Polish national radio every day for that first week, Westerplatte is still fighting, Westerplatte is still fighting. So this is a very important place to Polish people. Of course, it's a place of martyrdom, and we're going to go for a walk out and see some of the bunkers and see some of the memorials, and walk out to the memorial to the defenders, which is on the end of the peninsula. So the sign behind me says Nigdy Więcej Wojny, never again war. So we're going to make our way back through the parks of the peninsula, through the memorial area, back to our boat and back to the historic centre. And I'll have more for you later, something more on of Solidarność and Lech Wałęsa, and maybe something more on the famous beers of Gdansk and the Pomorskie region. See you a little later. Bye for now. So, hello everybody. I'm sitting down enjoying one of these great local beers here at one of my favourite spots is Brovania in Gdansk. where we bring our insight guests actually, and I've been joined by my good friend and colleague Agnes.
Hi there.
Who is our Insight Vacations local expert and does a really brilliant job. She's born and bred here in Gdansk and does a great job of introducing the region and the city and the whole area and the history to our Insight Vacations guests. And Agnes, it's great to see you. I hope to see you long before now, before July 2021. But
exactly, supposed to be last year.
Yeah, in May.
And then this May.
And then this May. But of course, we've kept ourselves busy with family. I see you've been busy with the boys.
Yes, 3 boys at home, and dog and a cat. So we were very busy. School, home, schooling. So we had to do some math and Polish lessons. I started to cook.
Good.
Yes, I was never good doing things in the kitchen. Now I've improved, but I'm waiting to be back on the road, to meet my guests, to take them on a trip back in time.
We are. It's great to see Gdansk opening up. It's been wonderful. We were walking around last night and the people are out and about, and we were on the pirate ship today and at the Westerplatte, and there were tour groups and coaches and tourists, and it's fantastic to see.
Yeah, 2 weeks now, holidays, started, and like nothing would ever happen. People are happy, smiling. All the gardens, restaurants are packed with people. Ice cream are still delicious, and just come walk down the street. Yeah.
And I know a lot of you who watch my crazy little films.
They're great.
have travelled with me before and have travelled with me here to Poland with Insight Vacations, and have been up here to Gdansk and have met Agnes. And I know you've had a great time with her. And Agnes, what is it that you enjoy most introducing about Gdansk and Pomorskie and Pomeranian region to our Insight guests?
What I really love is, to take people on a trip back in time, because Poland is full of history. And as you were in Toruń yesterday, you spoke about Teutonic Knights, and it goes, it connects with Gdansk so smoothly. I love to take people to churches, to cathedrals, to touch the bricks. The biggest brick castle in the world is just behind the corner.
Yes, if you like bricks, come to Gdansk.
Yes, some people collect stamps. I do collect medieval handmade bricks. So stories are amazing. If just walls could talk, and all the history about Solidarność and starting of Second World War, everything is here. It's
a brilliant city. It's a great city. And Agnes, you're a great local expert, and it's always great to bring our guests here and have a real local introducer with the passion that you do. So I look forward to coming back with our Insight Vacations guests.
I will be awaiting for you and the white coat with a blue stripe.
I know you will be. I can't wait for that wave. And of course, I'll see you again soon. I'll be back out with Sabina and Max and Matilda tomorrow from the European Solidarity Centre, Solidarność, the fall of communism in Europe. We'll go and check that out. See you then. Bye for now.
Maybe Lech Wałęsa will come and see you.
I hope so. We're looking for Lech. Lech, if you're watching, we're looking for you.
Join us.
Take care. Bye for now.
Bye. See you.
So we've arrived to the next stop on our tour around Gdansk, and you can see the sign behind me above the gate, Stocznia Gdańska, Gdansk shipyards. And I'm sure many of you have seen this gate, because in, of course, August of 1980, images from here were beamed into your homes around the world via your television sets of what was taking place here in what was then known as the Lenin shipyards. So 2 major strikes took place here. One, the first in 1970, a workers' strike which was crushed by the authorities and which resulted in the death of a number of the workers from the shipyard. And then, of course, the more famous strike which took place in August of 1980, which started, in fact, with the sacking of a female worker, Anna Valentinovich, just shortly before her retirement. She was sacked for being a vocal advocate for workers' rights, something that workers didn't have, of course. During communist times, the workers didn't have any rights. And her advocacy for workers' rights resulted in her losing her job. The workers here at the shipyard wouldn't stand for it, and they gathered in their hundreds in front of the office of the management, demanding that Anna Valentinovich have her job returned. But of course, it became much more than just demanding the return of Anna's job. Through their leaders, popular members of the workforce, including the world's most famous electrician Lech Wałęsa, they demanded workers' rights. 21 workers' rights. They were written onto large boards and nailed up inside the ship workers' yard, so that everybody could see it and everybody could know the reason for the strike and what was being demanded. The workers refused to work. They also refused to leave the shipyard. So they stayed in there while their leaders represented them with the management for 18 days. They didn't leave. They stayed in there playing games, playing guitar, singing songs, whatever they could do to amuse themselves, but not working. They couldn't go home to their families, so their families came here. They gathered in front of this gate as inspiration to the workers, striking workers inside. Lech Wałęsa even came to the gate, thanked the families and asked them to continue their support. The people of Gdansk started to come here to support the workers. Strikes started to take place in other major centres of northern Poland and across the country. And the events here, of course, were seen across the world. And eventually, after 18 days, it was agreed, those basic workers' rights were agreed. Solidarity movement was born, Solidarność in Polish. And this movement would become the first free trade union in communist Europe, in Eastern Europe. During the 1980s, it would grow into a major movement, not just here in Poland, but across Europe and across the world, with offices across Europe and across the world. Lech Wałęsa would be elected the first president of Solidarność in 1981. Shortly afterwards, martial law was imposed here in Poland. It was very difficult times for what was largely an underground movement then, but with great support in this country. Amongst some 40 million Poles, 10 million members of Solidarity, they counted, 1/4 of the population of the country. 1983, the leader of Solidarność, Lech Wałęsa, would be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. His wife Danuta went to Norway to collect that prize because he was afraid that if he left the country, that the Polish authorities wouldn't let him return. So Solidarity was born. The 1980s were very difficult years for Solidarity, but of course this movement continued to grow. They continued to have a voice across the world, and eventually that voice became too loud. Along, of course, with the election of the Polish Pope in October of 1978, who lent his voice to the cause and to this effort. Eventually the voice was so loud that the government, the communist government here in Poland, had no option but to sit down with the leaders of Solidarity movement at those famous roundtable talks. The roundtable talks which would lead to the first free elections here in Poland, in Eastern Europe, and to the peaceful end of communism in this country. The ripple effects of that were enormous, of course, across Eastern Europe, across communist Europe. It was felt. And after those free elections of 1989, Lech Wałęsa, of course, was elected the first freely elected president of the Republic of Poland. And very soon afterwards, communism crumbled right across Eastern Europe. So we're going to head inside the European Solidarity Centre, which exists here now. Lech Wałęsa still works here. He has his office up on the second floor. We're going to go inside. Max and Matilda are going to learn a bit about Solidarity. We'll take you inside to have a look too. Enjoy the visit. Well, I hope you enjoyed our walk through the Solidarność Centre. You can see it behind me now, like a big rusted hull of a ship. And well, that's the end of our little tour through Gdansk. I hope you've enjoyed it. We're going to head to the coast now and spend a few days in Sopot, Gdynia, and exploring the coasts and relaxing on the beaches of Poland. So that will be my next film. We'll show you something of the beaches from that area. But for now, remember to stay in touch. Remember to subscribe to my webpage, onceuponatimeinkrakow.com, to my YouTube channel. Remember to check out our Country Roads of Poland trip for spring of 2022 and our Insight Vacations highlights of Poland, which are operating every year during the spring, summer and autumn. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care. Bye for now.